Welcome to Behind the Glass. I'm your host, Vince Capano, a goalie coach working in grassroots hockey. Today, we're joined by my friend, Tim Turk, an NHL shooting coach and a leader in hockey development. We discuss the evolution of coaching relationships, challenges in minor hockey, the importance of proper equipment, and the need for creativity in player development. This was such a fun episode. I hope you enjoy it. Here we go. Behind the Glass, Tim Turk. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. For people who don't know, so I did a podcast like 5 years ago during the pandemic. It was called Sport Chat, and the goal of that podcast was to get into the sport industry. And Tim was and I was really lucky that Tim agreed to come on to that show. We did the whole thing, and now 5 years later, I'm doing my own goaltending stuff. And Tim is a leader in hockey development, so he's here, and I'm so excited. So Tim, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh man, thanks for having me again. I remember our last one. We were off on so many tangents, but covered everything on those tangents and in those tangents. That's really good, man. I'm excited to give as much information as I can to everybody out there so that, like the development part. And I'm looking forward to the questions. One of the things that I like about how you do your podcast is the preparation side. It's like, hey, man, we're going to talk a little bit about this, maybe a little bit about that. And you can help everybody to understand what we're talking about so that they can use all this knowledge for themselves.
Right. Thanks. I feel like as a host, that you're kind of like a traffic cop. You're like leading the conversation, and and sometimes it goes way off the rails, and you have to bring it back in. But I don't think we're gonna do that today.
Yeah.
So in this 5 year period, Tim, like we've talked obviously like off camera, but in this 5 year period, like how do you think hockey development, particularly player development, has changed?
Well, there's a lot of different things that are going on. Like, the first thing that comes to mind is the connection between the coaches and the players. So let's talk about the team coaches and the players versus the coaches and a development coach. Where, like, I feel like in an evolution over the past 5 years has been, most coaches, depending on the levels, they really I think they have like an ownership of their team. So I mean, in the old days, it's like, hey, this is my team. I picked these players, or I inherited these players, and that's the way they are. I'm just going to coach who I have. But some of the coaches are now realizing after all this time that, dang, I can't teach them how to skate. I can't suggest how they improve their shot or to handle the puck better, or even getting more technical on the type of skate that they should use or the type of stick that they should have. So that evolution has been a blessing for us development coaches because now these coaches are starting to trust what we're suggesting that they should do or have us come in and give them some suggestions that they can use or not use if it doesn't work in their systems. So that's one of the things that development, and it's a real good thing that coaches from all levels, even the NHL, like the NHL coaches are like, man, like I know what the players should do, but I just can't teach them how to do it. So we got to get separate help. We got to bring in third-party people to come in and help them.
Interesting. Wow. So what do you think, Tim? So what hasn't changed that probably should have by now?
I think like the mindset in most older and higher level teams is the equipment part of things. Like, for instance, my specialty is releasing a puck, the shooting side of things, which is the most fun part of development. I feel like the coaches don't understand, or some of the parents don't understand how influential their tool can be and how much confidence it could give them if they have the right curve, they have the right flex, the stick height is proper and the lie angle is proper. Sometimes that is one of the things that I feel needs to get more attention is attaching equipment to the player. It doesn't have to be the stick; it could be a helmet. It could be an elbow pad, where it's like restricting. I like players when they shoot, one of the things that I have this, you need to lock your arm. You need to fully extend and lock it at your elbow to get as much power as possible, and sometimes an elbow pad might restrict that action, or a shoulder pad might restrict some motion. So we gotta make sure that they have the proper equipment that's right for them, because each individual, and you'll hear me say this a bunch of times, is like a fingerprint. So we wanna make sure that everything that they have is right for them, whether it's a piece of equipment or a motion pattern.
It's funny, off camera, I'll share this, Tim was like, "Oh, I'm mad at you," and I'm like, "Why?" And Tim was like, "Oh, because you coach goalies now." And, so I thought, like, that was pretty funny, and one of the conversations I had with the goalie recently was, he wanted to switch equipment, so he's always been with, like, one brand. I think he was with, Brian's, and so, he goes like, "What equipment did you have?" And I said, "Well, I was always a CCM guy until, like, my later years, and then if I picked equipment today, I'd probably pick CCM." So it's funny how you mentioned that, how, like, yeah, I think it's, really, really important. Okay, on that point, Tim, uh, so, like, you've been around the industry for a long time, like, everybody knows you, everyone loves you. Um, I feel like we're in a little bit of a minor hockey crisis in Canada. I'm not sure if you agree, but it seems like there's less players registering, there's, less teams, overall, and so I wanna pick your brain about, like, what do you think is going on right now in hockey in Canada, especially minor hockey?
I think there's a disconnect, between the parents and the coaching and the management side. A lot of these, let's call them, a lot of these minor hockey organizations, I feel like, when when you register your son or daughter to go and play hockey, like, you understand the situation you're getting into. More than likely, someone's come to you and said, "Hey, I've seen your daughter play, and I'd really like to try and get them on my team." And then what happens is, that particular coach could have a conflict, because there could be a possibility that that coach is like, "Oh, I also have a hockey school. So I want you to come to my team, but I want you to come to my hockey school as well." And that disconnect has a lot to do with the politics side, where, hey, we're hiring coaches that are non-parent coaches, and that doesn't mean that a parent coach can't be just as good as a non-parent coach, but most of the time, I feel like the parents, in my experience, are drawn to coaches that don't have any players or any kids on that team that they're coaching. It seems to be like an influx of that, where that could hamper, or that could, in my opinion, that could also, like, a parent coach who's really good, who doesn't get the job because a non-parent coach comes in, yeah, that could be impartial to the area that you're in or anywhere else. But I feel like that's one of the major things where, everyone's looking for the non-parent coach, and then when they have a parent coach there, it just, deters them from registering in a certain organization or a certain area that they live in, because of that aspect of the coaching side. And that's all, yeah, it all reflects in development, right, Cappy? Because
Yeah.
if they don't, if the coach or the organization doesn't have a coaching mentor, or the particular team that you wanna sign up for doesn't have a particular development plan, which is what should be a coach's job, is to make them better. That's part of the thing that I feel that's been an issue lately. And the culture side of things in certain areas, there's other sports, and I feel like, not that it's a bad thing, but I encourage all hockey players to play other sports in other seasons, so that, they can develop their body, for more better range of motion and movement patterns. So, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff out there, but that'd be the highlight.
What do you say, Tim, for like, so for the non-parent and then the parent coaches, like, do you think this affects how kids are being taught how to play, or like the systems that they're learning?
I do, like, but sometimes, I guess what comes to mind is, sometimes there's an ex-player or a young, let's call him a young coach, in between, let's just categorize age 25 to 35 years old, that has had some pro experience or some high-level junior experience, and they come in, and what happens is, it depends on the coach's ability or willingness to learn new things. And most of the time, these young coaches who come in, who have a really good playing history or a high level of playing history, they refer to, or they revert to, what they've been taught, or who how they've been coached and who's coached them. So they just keep continuing their coaches' stuff because that's what they know best. They were in a certain system that really worked with them, so they're just going to try and continue to do that when maybe their team won't allow for that. Maybe instead of having skill with a lot of really good confident players, you may need to have like some working type of
Mhm.
program or system where you got to work really hard to get your success, and they can't
Mhm.
differentiate that. Most coaches have an issue on wanting to improve or wanting to gain more knowledge. So I would say, and this is like to me it's that like letting the parent out there know, letting the coaches out there know that I mean, I've been at the NHL level for 30 years, and I know that the message I always send is I want people to have an open mind, like, and you've heard this maybe, Cappy, that good coaches are good thieves. They'll see drills and they'll steal them and make them their own and modify them so that it works for their team. Those are the coaches that you wanna get your kids playing for. So, to answer your question, I mean, there's so many different variables there, but I really like how things are evolving now.
It's glad to know you mentioned that because I can put my hand up and say, "Hey, I do that. I do that for my goalies." Like, I look on, whatever, TikTok or Instagram or, like, whatever the platform is, and I'll see a drill, I'll be like, "Oh, that's really interesting," and I can adapt it for another goalie who, has a specific weakness that we can work on or we can improve in this area or whatnot. So, like, that's
Oh,
a good
man,
point.
I'm gonna interrupt you here, Cappy, like,
Yeah, yeah, go,
I
go.
can't remember how long ago it was, just, the last couple of years, I believe I was in Latvia, Riga, Latvia, and, the goalies would go on the ice, obviously, before the players. There'd be allocated time for the goalies to go on the ice, and as a shooting coach, like, I'm like you. Like, if I don't have to be on the ice, but I'm gonna be on the ice 4 hours after them, but I'm gonna take this, 45 minutes or an hour just to watch to see what's going on. This goalie coach, I couldn't believe my eyes. It was unbelievable. He had a big, huge, like, sweat shirt on, and he put a big pile of pucks in his belly, hold them up like I don't know, like a bag in front of him. So he had a puck and he's holding it in his hand, and then he would go across the goalie, like like the Royal Road, like from face-off dot to face-off dot through the hash marks, and he was throwing pucks behind his back at the net, at the goalie, bouncing them off the ice, and the goalies had to react like they couldn't see it coming because it was going behind his back, and I'm going, that's brilliant. You know what I mean? Like, it's the shot release that's deceptive. It's the same thing, like it's like you need to react on the puck. He might bounce it by his feet, he might bounce it by their feet, and then they're doing rebound control, and I'm going, "That's a brilliant." So I took that to the guys in the OHL, and the goalie coaches are like, "This is awesome." It's a new thing.
Right, yeah. I think I mentioned, in the first episode, Tim, we had Dave Delikian from the Grease, he was my old goalie coach, and, I mentioned a story where I saw a a goalie in Finland, he must be, like, 10 or 11, but he was trying to push a tire to build his lower, like, his leg strength, he was pushing a tire up the ice. I'm like, "Wow," like, talking about trying to be a really cool athlete, like, that's amazing.
Yeah. Innovation.
So
Innovation for improvement. That's good.
two more, Tim, on this topic of like minor hockey. So one of the questions I want to ask is like, when do you think coaches should introduce structure? So like power plays, penalty kills, breakouts. What age like do you think that should happen and why?
Recently I heard that, they're bringing body contact back into some of these, I don't know what you call them. They call them like outlaw leagues, like there's these young kids leagues where, um, it's hard I don't know what they're called, Vinny, but it's not sanctioned by Hockey Canada, obviously, and, I feel like by them introducing body contact again or, talking about development on how you can impact somebody when you're going to make a hit, or how you can brace yourself and be really safe to receive or absorb the impact, and how you strategize with your body to protect the puck, protect yourself, and or separate the puck from the player. So and these are for like U8s starting at 7 years old. So my answer to that for structure and, like special teams, these youngsters should learn it right away. And for me, it's like sometimes it could just be in the delivery. Like I remember, I want to say like maybe 10 years ago, I remember coaches would say to me, especially in Sweden, like overseas, all the players are like X's and O's. So they like to see a line on a rink board, a coach's rink board, so that they could visualize like where they need to go and what they need to do and all that stuff. And I'm like, no, time out. I'm just going to use my finger and I'm going to verbally explain it. And then they can draw a line, a visual line. It's my magic marker. Like there's a group of players here, there's a group of players here. This guy takes off, gets a pass from that guy, goes down there, and then he dumps it in, and this guy goes, and you're just talking about what needs to be done. If you can verbalize or explain it and deliver it how your team's going to understand it, then they go and execute it. And I remember one of the coaches in the national team, he's like going, holy F-U-C-K, I can't believe my players are doing the drill the way you said it with your mouth. And like, it's just how you're delivering it. And you got to look them in the eye. You can't be looking away. So I think as far as structure, as far as like special teams, teach them when they're young. Like have an active stick on the penalty kill. And when it's your turn, this is your area. This is what you need to do. And this is why, and then we'll
Mhm.
show you why that's going to happen. So it's all in the coaching.
Right. I noticed him sometimes on my practices, and like the coach will do the board, will go on the board and write the drills. And sometimes like the players will like, usually they're kneeling, but usually sometimes they stand up too early, or sometimes they're not really paying attention to the board. Do you find like that's a big challenge now? Is just the attention span of young players in minor hockey?
You know what? That's a great, great question. For me personally, I've never had an issue unless one particular individual has a severe case of, ADD or something like that, and it's recognizable, and most times coaches will, they'll warn you of, "Hey, who's who, this is what," or whatever. Then it becomes the developmental coach or themselves to find a way to keep their attention. Like, one of the things that I thrive on is when I blow the whistle and shake my stick, I need to talk to them. They gotta get their toilets over right away. You can't waste time. So I start by saying, "Here's the rules. Guys, and 3 things you gotta follow. One is when the drill's going on, don't shoot pucks on the boards because that means your ass is in the middle and you can't see what's going on. You can't help the drill. 2, when I'm talking, all you gotta do is listen. If I'm at the NHL level and I'm talking, what do the players do? Well, all the kids, they listen. I go, because they wanna learn. So you guys get patience, and the 3rd thing is you gotta pay attention. You gotta try to pay attention, and if you can't, let me know if you can't, but those are the rules. If you don't listen to the rules, I'm gonna shoot pucks at you. And then I'll say something silly like, "I can't hit you, but you'll catch a cold with the wind going by." So my thing is it's all about, like, having the ability to send your message, but I do get coaches that say, after I've run a practice for them, they're like, "How in the heck did you get them to pay attention? I can't get them to." And it's like, "Okay, like, here's a few things." Like, when you're talking to them, you gotta send a message, go down on one knee as a coach, like they do. Look them in the eye, get right down there with them and say, "Okay, this is our plan. We gotta save time when we're working on this drill." Or, we're trying to work on scoring on or defense or, like D zone coverages. I need you guys to really pay attention this one because, it's gonna help us to win whatever. It's gonna help us to win games or whatever. So they do have issues with attention spans, but, like there's so many ways for them to help them to get that fixed.
I think we've seen in the last couple of years that like the skill aspect of the game has really improved. Like how many practices I've been to, and I've seen a hockey player try to do the Michigan, for example, behind the net. Like those type of things. And so, like, how important do you think is creativity and freedom?
That's an awesome question. Like, I feel like players that can be creative, you know, you have to limit the type of creativity, but you can still keep the green light on for them, but to me, like, I feel like only a handful of players at the NHL level that hit the highlight reels. For an example would be, McKinnon. Um, McKinnon, when they won the cup, how many years ago it was, I remember he got a slap shot goal in game 6. It was an unbelievable slap shot goal, 5 on 5. There everything fell apart in the neutral zone, and he circled away from the puck instead of going to it, which he was supposed to go to it in their system, but he went the other way for whatever reason, and the far side D caught him, cross ice pass, and McKinnon gets over the blue line, big clapper, and scores on it. So the next day, every kid that comes to my private session or my group, they're like, "Can you teach us slap shots? Did you see that?" And I'm like, "What? What?" I didn't even know what was going on. So I had the video coach send me the video, and that was his only slap shot goal in his damn career. But because the
Mm.
highlight reel showed it, now everyone wants to take a slap shot. So everyone that does all this creativity stuff, there's a certain group of players that are really good at it. You got your McDavids, your Stutzleys, and all these other guys that can do some Zegras that can do some really cool stuff. But those are the only guys that can do it and get away with it at that level. So we
Mhm.
wanna, like my job is to say, "Okay, like, look at the percentages of how this stuff and when this stuff happens. It just hits a highlight reel, but it's only 1% of the time."
Right.
Y So we wanna let them be creative, we want to try things, but if it doesn't work, leave it. Let's go on to the next thing, and it's a team success instead of an individual one.
Following that, Tim, how do you train everything else? So I know it's a broad question. So you do shooting, you do passing, you do puck control on the boards, like name it, you do it. Like how do you train that aspect of the game?
So, you know what? For me, I do a lot of individual training, a lot of one-on-one or two-on-one stuff, and I feel like the spectrum of what you need to select of what the individual or the small group or the team needs is based on the feedback of the coach or your observation of how they played a game or what they do during a game. So my answer to that would be like everything is foundational. So for me to teach a really good shot, the player has to have good stability. So like sometimes people have come into my we'll do a private session and the kid will step on the ice and I can see there's a need for maybe to learn how to skate a little bit more. How to have a proper power position or a good posture level. So I would I'd say, "Hey, you know what? Here, take your money back and go spend it on a skating coach and go do a few sessions and then come back to me when this player is a little bit more stable and confident on their feet so they can do a lot of different, forwards and backwards while controlling a puck." So I always refer to foundation, like, let's see what your body can do, in this position prior to adding way too much complex stuff for them, or we wanna make them unpredictable, but if they can't keep a puck in in possession while their feet are moving quick, then we need to start with puck possession time or skating and then move on to, other things. So it's important. It's important that there's the players are stable. So for me, the most important skill that players should be working on is skating skills, but they don't want to. Like I shouldn't say they don't want to. I'm like, it's just that I pick shooting because I want players to like me. It's the most fun skill to do, you know what I mean? Like, it's everything in hockey should end in a shot, so my job is to fine tune how they do that, but skating coaches are neglected way more than they should be. You wanna understand and attach your mind to the action so you can feel what you're doing, and then you get more confident, and then naturally, I made this comment many, many times in many interviews is like, the better your skating is, the better your shot is. 'Cause you have so much stability.
That's so cool. Um, I guess one follow up, Tim, that I wanted to mention was like, does so when you're doing individual training, does the process change like from day to day?
Yeah. Yeah, it does, like, it's like, I kinda use an analogy of the McDonald's Big Mac. Like, if you have a Big Mac here, where like, I'm in Mississauga, Brampton area, Ontario, and if you have a Big Mac at any McDonald's here, it tastes the same, and if you go to Latvia and you have a Big Mac, it tastes the same. They start with one bun, and then they put something on the bun there, and then they put a beef patty, and then another bun, and then some pickles, and then some lettuce, and then some sauce, another patty, and then a top bun, and it's the same thing everywhere. So for really good, in my opinion, really good developmental coaches, what they'll do is they'll have a progression. They'll have, like, for me, I like to have an observation. I call it an NHL protocol assessment. And like what they'll do during that session is I'll test them on things and teach at the same time. And then I'll know what I need to give them first. Then they should achieve it like a level and they should up the level. And the next time they come, okay, did you do that? You did. Okay, so now you should do this. Receive a pass and release the puck without overhandling it. Did you do that? Yeah. Okay, next. Okay, let's try two passes. So good developmental coaches have a graduated system that they start, like the foundation, and then do this, introduce that. And my personal professional opinion is try and have some data to back up what you're teaching. 40% of players will shoot the puck this way when they're in this situation because of this or whatever, like they're reverting to a formation because the stress level is elevating. So let's give you options.
See, even as a goalie coach, then I'm learning so much. um, okay, so we've talked about like better hockey. We've gone through like personal development, player development. I really want to talk about, I guess, teaching skill, like where the game is going, if that's cool. So you said before, Tim, so like more speed, more skill. But like, what skills do players need more that weren't as important like 10 years ago, for example?
Like, I feel like now the biggest thing now is, the ability to change your mind while you're in a stressful situation, and that's, like, there's been some introduction to some cognitive, off ice and on ice stuff. I know, like, one really good person that does some really good cognitive stuff, and it's, that particular thought process skill of having the ability to react to something in a certain situation is now becoming at the peak of things right now in development. So, you know what? Okay, you get in a situation, okay, you're a good skater, you can handle the puck well and you can release it really well. But if you've made the wrong choice, then pretty much all that really good stuff is kind of like thrown out the window. So we want to be able to have a really good choice, and that could be like just a reactionary thing of where a player's positioned. Like I've seen in the old days where, I got a stick here, right? And there's a blade on it, and your teammate's over there. You got to pass to your teammate. I'll just put my stick there, and you'll be going, "Oh crap, I can't pass it there." And there's a stick there, even though the puck could fit anywhere. Like a puck is tiny, so it can go, you could get it there somehow, but you get deterred from that stick in that stick lane. So my thought process is, hey, how am I confident enough to make the choice of getting the puck to my teammate or keeping it myself based on the situation I'm in? And that thought process and confidence levels, they need to elevate. So I suggest to a lot of players, like, go to a cognitive thing, like a reactionary. You remember for goalies, holy crap. You remember the light board? Did you ever do the light board where you have to tap
I
the
remember
lights
that.
and stuff?
I do remember
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that stuff is so good, man, because you're using your peripheral vision and your thought processes, like your motor skills are accelerating to get to the action that you need to do. So I would suggest those are one of the things, that we need to work on, and all the skills for that matter.
Are coaches and systems keeping up about with how fast the game is going?
You mean like assistant coaches? What do you mean by that, Cappy?
Like, because I find sometimes like we're teaching. So when I go to practices, for example, uh, at the end they do like breakouts, penalty kills, and when I notice about the breakouts, like sometimes like for example they want the centerman to go and to get hit with a pass. Like sometimes I feel like the systems part of the game is really like it's not evolving to how fast the game is going. Like I feel like the game is going a lot faster than what these breakouts are showing. If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, that does make sense. That's think of this like, I'll put a scenario out there and I'll create an actual visual for the listeners and people that are gonna see this. Let's, for instance, take a power play breakout, and we'll talk about the NHL level. The NHL level is like you'll see a you'll see a player skating with the puck. They'll go through the neutral zone. They get as close to the far blue line as possible. Then they'll send the puck all the way back to another
Mhm.
player who's coming up through the middle. And you'll see it's a common thing that all the teams are doing. Everyone's doing it. So now it becomes a chess match. Now it's like, okay, who can do this power play breakout the best? Who has the best 5 players on the ice that can execute the same breakout that everybody's doing all over the ice? So to be successful at that, it's ending off in elevating your shots on goal, it's elevating your power play goals and all that kind of stuff. However, and then you take it 5 on 5, and now it's like, okay, our first line goes on the ice and we break out, and everyone that curls up to the wall or into the middle is heading up ice because we want to go north and south. And then line 3 comes out and we stop them, post them up at the hash marks on the boards because those guys can't skate fast and get a pass from behind them. Sometimes it's just a little bit of a level inflection, but that's what works best for each player that's out there. We need to change what that breakout's gonna be. But I know exactly what you're saying because it's like in the
Yeah.
game, you're like, okay, the first line is they're breaking out this fast, and it's the third and fourth lines out there, and the breakout's slow as molasses, but they're still getting out a different way. So that
Mhm.
sometimes it's hard to differentiate what a particular team's doing, but the systems they're evolving, they're changing. It's like, do you remember the old days where I'm a defense, I have a partner, and the puck comes back to me, and I would turn, my partner's wide open, I'd send it across the ice. He'd be hinged or whatever, so up or a little bit back, but it's going D to D. It's a D to D player, D to D play. We're changing direction. That's what we're doing. So that's what the old days used to do. Now I get the puck. It's like, where's my forward? I gotta get the puck that way as quick as possible. So that's one of the evolutions in the game where it's like they used to go D to D to D to D until someone opened
Mhm.
up, and now they don't do that anymore. It's like, how fast can I get that puck going to the other way so we can get in that zone and spend time in the offensive zone? So it's all kinds of different things, but you're right. It does seem like that because of the different, I wanna say, lines that are on the ice, and all the good coaches, even at the minor hockey level, they know who should do what, who does the best at a certain breakout or a certain system, or call the play from the face-off, like, "We're doing this off the face-off." And all the teams are like, "Hey, they said the word red. They're yelling out red. What the f does that mean? What's going" and then the
Mhm.
players do something. It's pretty cool. I really like that,
That
but
is
you're
cool.
right. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
noticeably, different for the naked eye.
We have a final segment in called Quick Hits, but we have a bit of time. So I want to ask you about like what's happening at the pro level right now. Like what teams are you training? Like who do you like in terms of players? I remember last time we chatted, you said Brandon Gallagher was such a nice guy.
Yeah, yeah, like, most of the work that, personally and privately I've been doing with small groups is with a couple of players on the Carolina Hurricanes. One guy's, Logan Stankoven, and the other guy is Seth Jarvis. And I got a bunch of other players that I should mention, but the list I'm so blessed, the list is so long, but everyone has their specialties. But these 2 particular players, I've known them for a long time, and you can see what the aspiration is to and having the willingness to improve every day. And the communication levels are starting to elevate with coaches and players and developmental coaches, personal coaches, movement coaches, yoga, breathing, all that kind of stuff. And what I mean by the communication levels elevating, if they feel like they're completely out of breath after 37 seconds on the ice, they're calling their breathing coach or they're calling their off ice coach going, I need to get more energy. What am I doing wrong? Like, and then stress builds up and they don't breathe while they're out there. They gotta remember to breathe. So that coach will say, "Don't forget to breathe in your mouth and out your nose." And if it's like a scoring issue, my phone rings and I'm like, "Hey, you can do this. You remember, you haven't lost confidence. You gotta restore it. You gotta get it back. It's there. You just gotta do something." So, I would say those players would be Stan Coven and Seth Jarvis, and there's a bunch of other ones that I could go on and on and on, but, I would highlight those 2 guys because I talk to them the most.
And Jarvis just got added to Team Canada for the Olympics, so that's really cool.
Yeah, he was emotional with that. That's awesome. So for me, one thing that I wanted to bring up, this might be
Yeah.
I would maybe suggest it would be on the negative side. I don't know. But one of the things that I've never said as a development coach is, I've said that that's my guy because I work with them, but I didn't get him to the NHL where there's a group of developmental coaches that'll say he's there because of me. You know what I mean? Like when that's so far from the truth, but it's a way to make themselves feel good, which is okay too. But I feel like all of us developmental coaches are trying to keep these young athletes, whether they're 7-year-old beginner or a 27-year-old friggin' 8-year NHL veteran. We want to keep them on the path, and if you're doing a really good job, they're always going to come back to you for more knowledge, for more things, suggestions on how they can stay where they're at or how they can get to where they want to go to live out their dreams. So, let's hats off to the developmental coaches because, as I said earlier, we're getting more work because these I'm calling them regular coaches, bench coaches. They're really good at what they do, but they can't. Sometimes some of them can't teach a player how to shoot a puck or how to
Like,
skate or what they want them to do. So here we are.
right. And that's why I wanted to do this podcast, because everybody's going to talk to each other: goalies, development coaches, skating coaches, hockey players. So that was kind of the idea of this. So it's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. There was a goalie coach. I don't mean to get off tangent here.
No,
There was a goalie coach at a young minor hockey level, and I believe it was A level. And I was on the ice. So what would happen is I would run some drills. A goalie coach would hover back and forth to the two goalies and give them some tidbits of what he saw or what he thought that they needed to do. So there was a time when he came over to me and he goes, Turkey, he says, I need 2 minutes with the goalies. I got to talk to them. Like, can we? I'm like, yeah, no problem. So he goes over, he takes both goalies down to one of the corners. I grab all the players and I go over and we go with them. So we're all down in the corner. And he's looking at me, he goes, what the fuck you doing here? And I'm like, we're going to listen to what you got to say because we need to hear what you're saying. If you're teaching them something, we want to know how to fix it. We want to know how to dissect what you're teaching them. And he's laughing. He's going, jeepers, oh my God. So I said to the players, if you're ever shooting for a goalie coach and they're talking to the goalie, get your butt over there and listen to what they're talking about. Don't just wait to continue the drill that they're asking you to do. Go and listen because they're going to give you some anecdotes on how to counter what they're teaching the goalies if you're listening.
see, that's a great point, Tim, because I always tell my goalies when they're doing like the power play or penalty kill, I always tell them, make sure you're at that board. Like, learn, like, listen to the assistant coach, like, talk to the defenseman. Because I always think of like goaltenders. If I had to write a book, I'm going to throw this out of the world, but if I had to write a book about a goalie, I would call it the goalie's view because they see everything. It's kind of like a quarterback in football, right? You see the whole ice. So I think it's really important for goalies to also be at the boards too, to learn like what the players are doing and even to call out the play, right? Like D to D behind the net, wheel, whatever the play is. I think it's really important.
Yeah, communication and visual and it's good because I feel like, and the way I am as a developmental coach is sometimes if I'm working with teams, youngsters, younger and lower age levels and stuff like that, the goalies will always wait in the nets. And I know if I'm going back there frequently, then on the first session I'll go to them and say, "Hey, what'd you learn about shooting today?" And they're like, I'm like, "Well, come and listen. Whenever, come to the
Yeah,
board and listen to what I'm saying, what I want them to do, and then you can read what's happening and you can also react to it." Yeah, absolutely.
amazing. So Tim, let's finish off with a last segment here. We call it quick hits. It's 5 questions. First thing that comes to mind, and they're all really easy questions. So let's do this. The first one is, what one thing minor hockey needs to stop doing immediately?
I feel like the head of the organization should take the politics out and then just worry about their focal point should be on the development of all the youngsters improving as athletes and as people, and don't worry about their past. Like they always talk about what they did in the past and how long they've been in an organization instead of looking to the future. I think they should do that. And all the players, the young girls and boys of today are the roots, and we got to get them to turn them into big oak trees. So that's what I would say.
I love it. Second one, what skill every player should work on daily? No exceptions.
Skating. Like,
Dating.
yeah, we were talking about that a little bit, a few minutes back. Yeah, create that confidence, and, like, for me, I mean, I was a right winger when I started playing hockey, and back then, like, years and years and years ago, your position was from the dot line to the boards on the right side. You wouldn't we wouldn't cross over the ice unless we got to the offensive zone, we'd go to the net, but we had to always be up that one side, so I could stop to my right really good. But the puck's behind my toilet, behind my butt. I can't see what's happening. And the coach said to me one day, Turkey, stop stopping away from it. I go, well, what I got, it was quick. I got back quick, but you didn't see what happened. So they need to understand and be equal on both sides of their body, and skating is the most important.
Love it. Uh, Biggest misconception parents have about player development.
I would say for me as a shooting coach, if I asked you, I'm a shooting coach, and I asked you what I thought would be the most important piece of equipment is, what would you say? The what? The stick, right? But if I were a skating coach and
Stick,
I
yeah.
asked you what the most important piece of equipment, you'd say the skates. But for me, I feel like the most important piece of equipment is in here. This is what allows you to make those choices. We were talking about that earlier, but the misconception of how a stick should match a player's body, like the manufacturer's suggestion on flex is half of your body weight. So for me, I should be using 125 flex. I'm an eighth of a ton. So so for me, but I use a 68 flex. So we need to like technically see what the player's doing so we can make a suggestion of what flex point they should use, a curve and all that kind of. It's pretty technical. It's becoming scientific, just like goalie coaching is. So that I would try and educate parents on, what, go get some sort of expert. Reach out to someone who can help match a stick with your athlete instead of giving them your senior stick. They're 9 years old, and you have your brand new senior stick that's a Woody from, 25 years ago because that's what you used. So they gotta match their stick to the body.
Cool. Two more. Uh, when you're treating pros, what's one detail fans never notice but matters a lot?
I feel like it's, for them, it's the work that they put in. It's the difference between, a routine and a ritual. I feel like, a large percentage of the athletes that make it to the highest level or to be able to play pro hockey, it's not that you have this routine that everyone else in pro hockey does. They go to the gym, their nutrition is this, they have a yoga coach, it's not that everyone else is doing it. It's like I'm doing it because I like it. It's a ritual. It's like you're setting examples for yourself and others where, okay, I'm going to the gym because I know that everything I do in there is going to improve my shooting, my skating, my reaction time, and improve my strength. Instead of,
Mhm.
well, Brendan Gallagher goes in there, he's strong, so I guess I might as well go and stay as long as he goes and blah 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 because I'm a pro. But it can start young, so that's one of the things that I feel like that can make a difference is having things as a ritual. Don't make it a routine.
And last one, Tim, if you were in charge of Hockey Canada for 1 year, what's the first change you'd make?
I'd allow body checking at a lower age. I like, so that they can get used to, what the bumping is and all that kind of stuff, and I would also have, the developmental programs that I would implement would be, find the best skill developmental coaches from around the world, doesn't have to be within Canada, to allow them who can deliver, their messages to the other coaches and put everybody on a single, I don't know, it's like a portal. So I'd have of our coaches and make them accountable to want to learn something new every day. If it's information that's been put out by someone like you don't have to be a certified goalie coach at the NHL level to give what you think in your thought process could be helpful to a young player. Everybody should have the opportunity to give some knowledge or give some suggestions on what all the coaches can instill in the players and then make it like a weekly thing. Like this week, Vince Capelli, he's providing us with this information. And then we send it out to the whole portal of everybody, and they can do what they want with the information, but at least they're getting something, week after week where it's coming from someone different, a skating coach, a regular coach, an NHL coach, you know what I mean? Like an Adam or a U10 coach that says, "Hey, this drill worked really good for me. Here's a picture of the drill. You should put it in your actual, system or put it in your plans."
On that note, Tim, thank you so much. This was wonderful. Great answers all around. And that's what I wanted this podcast to be. Like, here's the information and do what you like. But if we can provide that platform and resource like yourself to explain things, I think it just makes hockey better. So thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Everybody that gets a chance to listen or see this stuff, I believe that they can use me as a resource. I'm an open book. Like I every day I have between 10 and 15 at least questions from coaches around the world that are asking me questions, more specifically about shooting and scoring, or a connection to a good coach in the area, a goalie coach or a skating coach or a stick handling coach or whatever. Everyone needs to know that I'm open 24/7. I might not get back to you right away, but if you have any questions and you need an answer to or some sort of suggestion, I'm here, man. You could reach me at Tim Turk Hockey.
Amazing. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Cappy. Appreciate it, man. That was fucking awesome.
Thank you to the legendary Tim Turk for coming on the show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share my channel with all of your friends.